My action research project is entitled Factors That Affect Parental Involvement. My question is, what are parents' thoughts on how to strengthen parental and school relationships? And the reason why I chose this question was I taught kindergarten last year, and that really probably was my first insight into parental involvement because I came from middle school, and in middle school you kind of want involvement, but it's kind of understood that as they get older, that parental involvement becomes less. But I can see in the earlier grades that parental involvement is really needed. So I decided to choose that question. But the problem that I had was as I was doing research on it, um, the pandemic kept coming up. It just was affecting everything. So that is my original question, but I kind of brought in how does the pandemic affect or how will it affect parental involvement? So I kind of coupled the two together. My literature review, um, during research, I found the obvious, which um, factors that affect parental involvement are socioeconomic status, ethnicity, um, parents, previous educational background. So those were the obvious, and there's tons of information on that. So that really made me want to look further into the effects that this pandemic could have. But, I realized that I needed to find other research also, past research. So an excellent piece of information I found was Epstein's typology. And he put together a framework, and it included parenting, communication, volunteering, learning at home, decision making, and collaborating. So he was saying that parental involvement will fall into one of these categories. So I learned a lot about that, just to name a few, volunteering, how that's just a great way to get parents involved. Parents, they want to, some parents, they want to see what's going on with their children. They want to be in the school, and volunteering is a great avenue for them to do that. Collaborating, when you got parents and teachers working together, for a common good for the child, that's always a win-win situation. Several of the materials that I found were about how parental involvement will raise scores, and that's all. That was just across the board. That when parents are involved, it's going to make a difference on children. One interesting thing I found was how parents sometimes tend to think that the child does not want them involved, but deep down inside, they really do. Another excellent resource I found was called 68 Parental Involvement Ideas. And what's interesting about this is it actually was on Georgia's Department of Education. So I shared it with my former principal, and I told her, I said, I don't know if you have this, but this is great, because she likes to send out little tips and little fillers in the mornings for the teachers. So it has some excellent ideas on there. Number one, know the secret to getting parents to attend meetings at school. Make sure they know they're genuinely invited. Another one, have a handy, ready reference list of helpful materials parents might use to help them cope with student behavior. Better yet, have a lending library. Use simple evaluation forms to get parent feedback on every meeting or event. If we ask, they will tell us what they want. Give parents specific suggestions about how they can help their children. Many just need to know things like read aloud every day, turn the TV off during homework, solicit parent volunteers at the kindergarten registration day program. Make it easy to sign up when parents are most enthusiastic. And parents are very enthusiastic on the first day, um, that first get together for school, because their little baby is just starting school, and they want them to do well, and they want to know who you are, and all that. So when all that enthusiasm is being spread around, that's a great time to get them involved. I'm investigating my question. My methods that I used were surveys. The location was Muskogee County School District, which is the district that I'm a part of, and it's located in Columbus, Georgia. The population I used were parents of elementary children and educators of elementary children. Um, some of the challenges, like I said, I had was when I started out with my question, I just wasn't really content to just rehash the same things that they found, but I really wanted to know how this pandemic was going to affect parental involvement, because if all those other factors played a role in parents not being involved with their children, then what we're going through right now mean? And then what was a challenge about that is I couldn't find a whole lot of information, because it really has not been studied yet. It just happened to us like what, 3, 4 months ago. So there wasn't a lot of information out there about it. My results. From what I found, parents and educators are on the same page when it comes to parental involvement. I think just implementing guidelines and the processes need to be strengthened, because parents, from my survey, wanted to know what can they do to be more involved with schools and their children. And then I did another survey with educators, and 100% believe that parents should have a guide to help them with parental involvement. So you got parents wanting to know what to do, then you got educators um, believing that some type of guide for them would be beneficial. On my analysis of results, what I learned through this research is many of the same factors that affected parental involvement over 25 years ago are prevalent today. They include socioeconomic status, parents' educational background, and ethnicity. There have been many studies and papers written addressing the above concerns. Schools that recognize the value of having parents involved will work to establish open communication with parents see positive results. Parents who are communicating with teachers and are able to develop a relationship of trust between the two realize the best results academically, socially, and emotionally for students. From my results, I see that parents want teachers to help them understand how to be more involved with their child's education. Educators think a guide to help parents with parental involvement is a good idea. So I think what's missing is the communication, because if they're both kind of wanting the same thing, then I think a good question for each of them to ask each other, what do you need from me? And that will start a successful outcome. Next steps. If I were to continue this research, I would I would flip my question more leaning towards how this pandemic has affected parental involvement. Um, the factors that have always been prevalent are going to be magnified: that ethnicity, that socioeconomic status, um, uh, parental background, educational background. All of these things are going to be magnified because of this pandemic. There'll be more information that's going to be available for future researchers to use. Um, the schools reopenings and the new model for education that's being developed right now, that's another thing that can be further explored, because parents will have to play an even greater role in their children's lives regarding education now, either willingly or unwillingly, but that parental involvement piece is going to have to be strengthened because of what we're going through.